Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast, with me, Matthew, and as always...
Scott, hello.
Hello, Scott. This week, it is part 2 of the resurrection of the Daleks.
And I would say it's a lot more of a positive experience this week.
Yeah, I think it's a much more solid episode of Classic Who. There's still definitely a lot of bad, dumb things in it, but I think there's more good than bad, perhaps. I mean, we'll find out as we really go in scene by scene and relive it. But my impression from finishing it earlier today was that it was much better, and I think the performances, specifically Peter Davidson, I think he gets a lot more to do as the Doctor. He's no longer just the Doctor's got a gun. He has a moral crisis in the episode, and I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's Peter Davidson's best performance in his 3 years of his show. Sorry, I'm burping.
It's okay.
I've only had water, I swear to God.
It's fine. I'm drinking Coke, so I will be doing some lovely burping as well.
But anyway, in the time since we've recorded the last episode, I started listening to the novelization. I'm only 2 chapters in, but so far it's a very different experience.
Yeah, what's the biggest difference?
So, this was written 35 years after the original episode by the original writer. So, he basically got to fill in a lot of the gaps that he missed out in his first time. It explains a lot more about the characters and all that. So the opening scene, I'm only 2 chapters in, so I've not read much. But I've already noticed a big difference. With the opening scene, when the characters are going through the time portal in the TARDIS, there's a nice little part where it explains the danger behind going through the time portal, where if they slip through a crack in time, they're going to be forced to relive the same moment over and over again for all eternity. The companions are going to die, and the Doctor is going to be forced to relive his regeneration, which would be a living hell for him.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's already a massive difference in the show. In the show, it's like the time corridor, and that's all they ever expand on it.
it's all written. There's no characters explaining it, so there's no reason for it to be in the episode. But
it's a lot easier really to get exposition in a book.
Yeah. So another change is the prison. The prison ship.
Yes.
So Styles, the woman in charge, says she's in charge basically because the captain is drunk, which helps to explain why the state of the ship is in such wreckage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we never actually meet the captain in the show. They mention him briefly in part 1, but they never really bring him up again.
Yeah. And there's also a little bit more about Stein, the guy with the stutter. It gives a little more information about his background, which he was never really a soldier. He's too short to be a soldier. He's too cowardly to be a soldier, which I imagine will help the ending where he sacrifices himself.
Yeah,
it will help. Yeah. It will help that resonate much more than it does in the actual episode, I reckon.
Yeah. I feel like that gives a much more, a dramatic. There's a word I'm looking for that I can't remember at the moment, but yeah, it would resonate a lot better. And just when you mentioned Stein, because I think he's much better in this episode than he was in part 1, like everybody really. But we'll get there when we get there in the episode. There's a moment where they're shooting at each other, and Stein's the only one that comes out of it alive, and he's injured. It's when the Doctor's chatting to Davros, and it was so funny. It was people playing laser tag was that one scene. But yeah. we'll cover it in a moment. But I just flashed in my head when you said Stein.
There's also a nice bit at the opening. You know the old man who you see smoking a cigarette before the Lytton police officers shoot down people?
Yes.
There's a nice moment where he's about to take a smoke, and he contemplates that smoking is probably going to be the death of him someday. And then, like in a cruel twist of fate, he then gets shot down by the police. It's a nice little character moment, I think.
Yeah, that's a fun little like character beat that you can really only achieve in books.
Like he's like the details is he's a tramp but has never harmed anyone, so it makes his death a bit
tragic.
more.
Yeah.
And then there's also a little bit of information about the soldiers who look after the cylinders. There's like a nice little moment where they're setting up camp to watch over the cylinders, and they're pouring cups of tea, and the captain makes like a dad joke, and his lieutenants kind of laugh at it, but it's kind of like the polite laugh where you laugh, and it's like, not funny.
Yeah.
And then in the book it says something along the lines of, "This will be the last time the lieutenants laugh at their boss." And it's like really sets up some tragedy.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I've got, but it's really nice little moments so far.
That's fun. I'm glad the book that it's got. I'm surprised it has a novelization for it, but I'm glad it exists.
Pretty much every classic story has a novelization.
That's a lot of books.
I think Resurrection was the last one to get to it, because this came out in 2019. So.
Wow, yeah, that is very recent.
Yeah, and with that, we'll start the episode, I guess.
Yeah, let's dive in. As always, the episode starts with the funky ass intro, which we covered last week. Still like it. Still really unnerved by Peter Davidson's death stare as he attacks the face. But it's good. It's a good intro. Oh wait, I don't think we actually covered this. What do you think about that Doctor Who logo?
Give me a second. I need to reacquaint myself with it.
Because I don't think we talked about the Doctor Who logo last week.
Yeah, it's a classic logo. What do you think of it?
Not the biggest fan.
I'll show you the worst logo, I think. It looks like a signature.
It's not a terrible logo, but it looks like neon lights, like you could see in a diner.
Yeah, but dude, it's 1980.
Yeah, I know it's very 80s. Though that being said, if someone turned that into like neon lights you could hang on your wall, I'd buy the fuck out of that.
Like this is the logo for the Sylvester McCoy stories, and the word Doctor just looks like a signature.
Oh god, yeah, that's really hideous. And
really
who's so thick? Yeah, that's a really bad logo.
I think it's definitely the worst one that we've ever done.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the theme of the show at all.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but no, this logo's okay. I don't think it's great, but it's very off the time.
Yeah, I think the whole story can be equated to it's of the time.
I feel like the story could still fit in a modern day. You'd have to change a lot because a lot of it is just garbage filler and dumb. But like the Davros, the moral crisis with the Doctor trying to kill him, the policemen being bad guys that kill people, that's still relevant, you know?
Yeah, I meant it more in terms of like production.
Oh yeah, definitely production. Yeah. But let's just let this play through. Skip. The episode picks up immediately where the last part ended, which I think was pretty common for how they did every episode.
Every episode ended on a big cliffhanger that would just get reprised for a couple of seconds at the start of the next one. It's very classic Doctor Who.
It's a good way to bleed the episodes together. The only downside I think that comes of that is the cliffhanger from the last episode always ends up being irrelevant.
Hmm.
Because the episode starts fixing the cliffhanger immediately.
It reminds me of the best time we've ever done it is The Empty Child, where the children start crowding the Doctor and Rose. And then the next episode just opens with, "Go to your room."
Yeah.
It's like the best opening to resolve a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and then the Doctor's like, "I'm so glad that worked." Like,
Like, we waited a week to find out what happened.
yeah, yeah. It's a very classic Who kind of callback. Actually, I never thought of it like that. But the episode opens where they left off with Peter Davidson and Stein. See, I know his name. I know his name now because I've watched the episode twice. Coming out where the Doctor takes down the security guard, and it's turned out that not Turlo. Oh, I mean maybe Turlo's bad. He's got the sinister look to him, and he's kind of murderous in this episode. But Stein, I was just bragging how I knew the names, and where Stein turns on the Doctor, and he very theatrically, I think, reveals that he's an agent with the Daleks.
Yeah, it still doesn't quite make sense because of the moment earlier where he's alone in the last episode, and he's still keeping up with facade, but he's a normal person. Like,
Yeah, you get that in anything where there's a twist that someone's a bad guy.
the only show that doesn't do it is The Good Place. You never see Michael alone in the season 1.
Yeah, you never see Michael alone, and even then, he like kicks a dog in the sun. He does some pretty obvious bad guy stuff. You just don't click it as bad guy stuff. But the Turlo reveals that he's working with the Daleks, and then immediately
Stein.
Fucking hell! God damn it! Stein. Turlo. He's working with the Daleks. I know it. I know he is. But
I'm so glad you remembered Turlo this time.
I know.
Last time
I've remembered it to a fault. Stein reveals he's working with the Daleks, and immediately there's a Dalek trooper and some Daleks surrounding the Doctor and planning to exterminate. A thing that I really liked is a Dalek pins the Doctor against a wall immediately with the plunger. I thought it was a really nice way of threatening with the Dalek.
It's very classic Doctor Who. Remember the first time you see the Daleks, you see the plunger just cornering Barbara into a wall when it starts. Yeah, it's very classic Who.
Yeah. It is very classic Who, and the plungers, it's a very dumb bit on the Dalek. It's something that I think New Who started when they introduced it with David Tennant and with Eccleston as well, where the plunger can like suck people up and like melt their faces and things like that. And then they don't do anything with the plungers ever again after that.
Here the plunger is dangerous because Tegan got knocked out by one. Remember last week?
Yeah, they're solid. They'll give you a big gash on your head.
But immediately goes away.
Yeah. But the Daleks are all screaming, "Exterminate the Doctor," which is iconic, really. Just any Dalek saying that is wonderful. But they're interrupted by what's his name again?
Lytton.
Lytton, who tells them that they must stop because there's been an order from the Supreme Dalek. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're planning on cloning the Doctor. In the scene that still doesn't quite make sense, which we'll get into, and so they're going to keep the Doctor alive for now until they take his memories and his identity and clone him first. Much to the slight annoyance of the regular Daleks, the Daleks take the Doctor away, and Stein, not Turlo, Stein, talks with Lytton. Discussing the Daleks in something that I quite liked, but again, it's very theater, where Stein is talking about how impulsive the Daleks are, and Lytton goes, "They'd kill anybody, even if they need them. Like they're just ruthless, murderous machines." And Stein just goes, "How much longer until it's your turn? How long before you're dead?" To which Lytton just looks at him, and then we cut away. I think it's a really nice little scene of just that you can't, even if you're working for the Daleks, they will kill you.
It's a good setup for his next story, where Lytton becomes a good guy. Actually, he redeems himself in Attack of the Cybermen next season.
I'm glad he comes back. I was wondering what happened because he just becomes a police officer at the end, and
At the end at the end he escapes and then ends up I think I haven't seen Attack for the Cybermen in ages, but he winds up working with the Cybermen, but then changed his mind.
We then cut to Turlo, and it is Turlo, and the I'm just going to call them rebels because that's essentially what they are, and I'm not going to learn their names. The the rebels, and they find the self-destruct room inside the starship, which every good starship has, and they're a bit surprised that it's not guarded. I think it's a bit convenient that it's not guarded, honestly.
To be fair, they only had like 12 actors.
Yeah, they just kind of just go up to the door. This episode, again, it falls in the same issue that happened in last time. There's so much going on. It cuts between scenes within 30 seconds. Like you're in a new scene. And it's cutting about like crazy.
It's really bad for that. Like in the first 6 seasons, they didn't even have the money to edit the tape. So they shot it in like 11-minute chunks where the scenes would just drag on. And I think it's a lot better that way, rather than cutting every 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's surprising. I'd much rather watch a nice long scene where it's just the performers working together and going through it rather than cut in the specific format that Classic Who's in, because it's shot kind of like an old theater production. It's a stage set in a wide with just the props around the place.
Like usually you'd have to follow the characters for at least a minute or two, set up some kind of conflict they'll have to solve for the next scene they're in. But here it's just like, oh, here's where they are. I mean, it just ends.
Here's a sentence. Okay, we're going to see the other people now. But we cut back to, oh god, what's her name? T. It starts with a T.
Tegan,
who's still cozy up in bed with the, if we remember from part 1, the clone soldiers. Or duplicates, I guess. They're evil. They're working with the Daleks. And is she from Liverpool? Is that where her accent is?
I do not know.
Yeah, she has a weird accent, but she's I don't even know her name.
Oh, you mean Tegan? Sorry.
No, not Tegan. The lady that's asking for if anyone wants tea.
All right, I do not know then.
Yeah, but she asks if anybody wants tea, specifically to try and which is revealed in a few moments. She was going to poison the Colonel so that they could, I guess, escape. But she.
Even if they poison the Colonel, like there's still there's 6 other guards.
There's so many, but I guess if she poisoned the Colonel, she could take his gun.
Yeah, true.
She touches his gun briefly. This gun shouldn't really exist, and it's how I know you're a duplicate because the Doctor had this gun.
I still don't get that plot line.
It's so. Is the gun organic?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is the gun a clone?
Is the gun a part of the Colonel? Is it like bred into his DNA? Yeah, that's I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. And then the Colonel leaves them, and Tegan and this nameless lady whose name we don't remember. Tegan jumps out of bed, showing that she's no longer injured anymore.
I did write her name down somewhere, but my notes are long, as you've seen.
Yeah. And they start. Excuse me. And they start. Oh my god. And they start looking at the canisters that are just kind of haphazardly buried in the dirt.
Yeah.
And they're, as Tegan described them, surprisingly light. Although she doesn't describe it as that yet. She describes it in a future scene.
Also, they're clones, right? They're cloned by the Daleks.
Yeah.
Why don't they order the clones to put the canisters somewhere where the companions can't get them?
They're in the dirt. They're just lying in the dirt, and they're going to leave the companions alone in the room with the
Yeah.
canisters, and nothing's going to go wrong.
Like they're also next to a river. Just throw it in the river. It's a stupid plan, but throw it into the river.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird that they left them. I guess you could kind of justify it if you're like, they subconsciously left them in there because they were fighting back against their Dalek programming.
That's
It's a stretch, but it's the
Yeah.
only logical reason I could find that they would leave them there.
yeah. There's a lot of dumb moments like that.
I think the biggest fault in this episode is the companion stuff. I think
Yeah.
the stuff with the Doctor's good, but the stuff with Turlo is fucking really weird, and the stuff with Tegan is really kind of boring and dumb.
I've got something to say about for one useful thing later on in the episode that does not amount to anything, but we'll get there later.
We then cut to the Doctor getting led into the... I guess this is just the morgue bit where they were keeping the dead bodies of the soldiers that they cloned. That's where they've got to.
Again, like a 5-second scene.
Yeah, it's literally the Doctor walks into a room, looks at some dead
around.
bodies,
Yeah.
a Dalek goes, proceed, and then we cut away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
Like that should have been the end of a scene before.
Yeah, or
Like-
the start of the scene where the Doctor then walks in to the scene should continue from there.
Yeah.
But we cut to the duplicate soldiers, and they're discussing the Tegan problem, because they've now figured out that they're duplicates, if that makes sense.
Again, another 10-second scene.
Yeah, it's literally, they figured it out. What should we do? The Daleks will tell us, and then they cut away. It's crazy. But, there's a lot going on in this episode. It's structured weird. It's structured weird. There's no other way to put it. It's just structured weird. It's like, you could fit, 4 scenes on one page the way this is written.
Yeah. Like, as I said last time, like, some of these scripts apparently would have, 80 scenes.
Yeah, that's insane.
For, 4 locations?
Yeah. But we cut to Davros. I think the Davros stuff is my favorite stuff in this episode.
Yes.
We cut to the Davros, and the Daleks are telling him that the research that he's doing needs to be completed. He needs to get it over and done with, because they're planning on killing Davros. Why are they waiting?
Do I look
Because-
like I know?
Because Davros's plan is to come up with a new genetic model for the Daleks to make them more capable of thinking outside logically, so they can think more strategically and become slightly less ruthless and more tactical. And the Daleks don't want that to happen. So why are they letting him do his research before just zap him dead?
I think they just want a cure at this point. I think they're under the impression that he's going to find a cure for them rather than...
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cure for the
Yeah.
virus thing. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it does get a bit complicated like that. Like,
There's a lot of moving wheels in this story. A lot of plans to break those plans, and plans to break those plans that were going to break those plans. And but Davros tells him that he needs a sample of the virus, and he needs 2 Daleks to test on. Which the Daleks are against, but Davros tells them that he needs it. He needs it. And so the Daleks are like, oh, we'll chat to the Supreme Dalek and figure it out. The Supreme Dalek, I'm really kind of confused by the ranking system of the Daleks.
dude, even in the new series, I get confused by ranking systems. It does.
Yeah, because there's Davros, who's the creator, and so who I always assume is on top, but most of the time he's on the bottom.
Yeah.
Most of the time the Daleks are walking all over him. There's the Supreme Dalek here, then there's the Emperor Dalek in New Who. There's the Cult of Skaro. There's
it does get a bit all over the place.
I think the Daleks would be a much more efficient killing machine if they could work out their hierarchy.
And also have like 1 or 2 plans at the most.
Yeah. Oh, there was also the colored the Rainbow Daleks, the Power Ranger Daleks.
Ugh.
Those guys were around for an episode.
Don't even start.
I liked the design, but
I do not.
The storyline got dropped and they got exploded. So the Daleks go off, and we continue. We continue briefly where Davros says, "Already I grow impatient." I think I got a really big Star Wars vibes from the Davros Doctor scenes in this, which we'll get into more. But it's like what, 1984 when this came out.
Yeah, so Return of the Jedi just came out.
Yeah, and it's because Davros gives me the Emperor vibes, and there's literally a bit where he's pleading with the Doctor to join him, and they'll create a new Dalek race and and rule the galaxy.
Yeah, there's definitely there's also some alien vibes, I think.
Yeah.
Just from the set alone.
Yeah, and Peter Davidson in the right light kind of looks like Luke Skywalker. They've got the floppy blonde hair,
I guess I can see that.
But we then cut back to Turlo and his rebels, and they're looking at the self-destruct thing, kind of confused, and then we just cut away. Well, that was
we cut away to see the Daleks watching them. So sorry, we cut away to Lytton, and then we cut away to the Daleks watching them.
Yeah. And they've figured out that they're going to blow up the ship.
Also, a little bit of a nitpick. In the globe where the Dalek is watching them.
Yeah.
It starts moving like a proper camera, even though it's supposed to be like CCTV.
It's just the Dalek that's on the CCTV is a really, really good cinematographer. And so he's like, oh, it looked good if I started to zoom out. There we go.
But yeah, it does get distracting when moments like that happen, where it's supposed to be like security footage, and then it's obviously someone moving in the camera.
It's the highest quality security footage in the world. Or like the angle doesn't make sense, where it's like the security camera's way up there, and then the shot of it's like the wide shot from over here.
Yeah, it's 80s Doctor Who. We're nitpicking.
But we then cut to the Doctor in the I'm sorry, I don't know if we said the scene with the Daleks and Lytton. They're basically shouting at Lytton because he should have figured out that somebody was going to go into the self-destruct room and blow up the ship. Which, fair point. Lytton kind of dropped the ball on that one. But we cut to the Doctor, and he's kind of fiddling with the cloning equipment, like, oh, this is fun. And I really liked the scene with the Doctor just going up to the Daleks because he knows they're not going to do anything to him.
Yeah, and then the Daleks start going towards him and he starts backing up. It's a great power dynamic like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always love it when a Dalek starts causing a character to back up. It's intense even though the designs are kind of crappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like these Daleks, by the way, I was looking up on this. Like the bodies are from the 60s and the heads are from the 70s, and we just reuse all the props and just attach Frankenstein all the heads together, and it really shows.
It does really show, but you've got to appreciate the ingenuity. That's not a word. The what's the word I'm looking for? The practicality, I guess, of it. It's like they made it work with what they had, which really was some glue and some cardboard. But the Doctor's he's Stein starts talking to him about how he shouldn't be annoying the Daleks because they're capable of a lot of murder and death, and the Doctor's still like, yeah, but they're not gonna hurt me because they need my brain, And and my thought there was, they could still really torture you, as long as they keep you alive.
Yeah. Also, this is what I've picked up on my second viewing. So Davros has like a device, like a little needle, like mind controls people and turns them into zombies. Why don't the Daleks just use that?
Yeah, why don't they just stab the Doctor
Like,
with that?
like it's proven to be a lot more effective.
Yeah. Why clone people? What at
And
all?
and also later on in the scene, he reveals the Daleks reveal clones of Tegan and Turlough. How did they clone them?
Yeah. We talked about that in part 1, where Turlo walks by where the bodies are, and we're like, how is Turlo's clone already there?
It,
Like,
it would just really streamline the story if they just started using the needle to just
Yeah.
mind control. Like,
yeah, it would streamline the story. I think it would maybe become a bit like overused and overpowered sort of thing, where it's like, here's this magical device that can brainwash anybody it touches. And I do like it only being like Davros' secret tool he uses to betray the Daleks, because the
Yeah, I
Daleks
guess.
aren't aware of it. But yeah, it is kind of dumb that they didn't just use that they're deciding to clone everybody. Like, but we then cut back to Tegan and the gas canister, which is incredibly light, and she just starts fucking shaking it around.
it's got dangerous chemicals, and you're not.
She's just
They,
chucking
they
it.
don't they don't know what's in it, so it could be dangerous to them, and they're just, oh yeah, let's shake it around. Let's toss it around like a football.
Yeah, and then they put it in bed, and then it cuts away again. But we'll cut back to them in a few moments where they're like stacked it to be like a body in bed, and it's
awful.
it's so stupid because it looks terrible. It doesn't look anything like a body, and I really appreciate that they look
Like-
at it. They try to justify it, and then they end it with, "It's not going to work."
Like they cut back to them trying to do that like 2 or 3 times. And they just end up not going with that plan.
Yeah, because they know it looks bad. They're like, "Oh, that's terrible. That's a stupid plan."
And like, that could have been cut out.
It could have been, yeah, but yeah. We then cut back to Turlo and his rebels in the self-destruct room, and Turlo's trying to plead for them to not commit suicide. But there's really he's trying to convince them to take the time corridor that he took to get into the ship, and they could use it to escape. Turlo, right, Turlo, okay.
Yeah.
He gives me the weirdest vibes out of any companion I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I just don't trust anything he's doing. He always looks kind of sweaty. He's got a kind of sinister face, and just whenever he says anything, I'm like, you're kind of evil.
That's because his initial role was to sabotage the Doctor before he became a companion. And I guess they just cast him based on that role, not deciding that he was going to become a companion. Like,
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
like if you're picking up on that without seeing his first appearance, like,
Yeah, he's got villain vibes to him. Like,
I guess it's just because he's ginger.
yeah, but screw you. But
Context: Matthew's ginger.
I'm very ginger. I'm more ginger than most people. Yeah, Turlo tells them about the time corridor. The lady says that, yeah, okay, you guys can go look for that while we try and blow up the ship as a possible way of escape. Which is, yeah, that's pretty smart. Split into 2 teams, get more than one thing done at a time. You're kind of against the clock at the moment.
It's Scooby-Dooing it.
Yeah. Let's split up and look for clues while me and Daphne, or no, is it Daphne?
Yeah, Daphne.
Yeah, me and Daphne shag in the bathroom.
And then Shaggy and Velma get together at some point,
Yeah.
which does not work.
I think it's fun. You know, the stoner and the nerd. I think it's a fun pairing. But this isn't a Scooby-Doo podcast. Anyway.
Although Doctor Who does turn into Scooby-Doo at some points.
I rewatched, because I just finished season 2 of New Who, so I rewatched Love and Monsters.
Yes.
I totally didn't remember there being a Scooby-Doo scene in there.
What did you think of Love and Monsters? Just as a quick tangent.
I enjoyed it more than when I first saw it. I think it's really weird. It's like almost a cartoon version of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird and flamboyant. And I still think it's kind of meh.
You see, that's kind of the reason why I like it, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a unreliable narrator kind of thing, where he's viewing it as like this alien kind of thing.
Yeah. Where he's like, they're right. You know, we see them running through the corridors like Scooby Doo, but it probably didn't happen like that. It's just how he's describing it. Yeah, I get that. It was definitely much better than I remembered it being. I think the ending of it kind of falls apart. Where
the only Doctor Who episode that ends with a blowjob joke.
Yeah, yeah. It ends with a blowjob joke, but I meant more like the way they defeat Absorbaloff. They just kind of defeat him, like the Doctor just shows up and beats him quite easily. But yeah, it was fine.
We'll cover that another day.
Yeah. Anyway, we cut back to the Doctor and Stein in the cloning room, and the Daleks tell him that he needs to lie down on the bubble bath. Not the bubble bath. The what's it called? Bubble wrap bed. The bubble wrap bed. And did you pick up on it this time? When he sits on the bed, you hear the bubble wrap pop.
No, I didn't. But just before he's about to sit down, Stein reveals that Davros is on a ship. And when he reveals that Davros is on a ship, the Dalek next to him kind of turns to him and he's like, "What did you just say, you motherfucker?"
Yeah, I loved that bit. I loved that bit. I thought that was so good.
There's a nice bit of subtle acting.
Yeah, from a Dalek. Yeah. Yeah, but what? Right. So the Doctor sits on the bubble wrap bed and just listen for when he lies down. You'll hear a pop.
Hold on. Okay, yeah.
He goes pop pop as he lies down, and it's brilliant. It's so good. But after he lies down on the bed, we then cut again to Tegan. We are literally 7 minutes into the episode, and I feel like we've cut around like 15 times.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Also, we're 7 minutes into the episode and 40 minutes into the end.
Are we really? Yeah. Oh my god.
That's going to be a long one, boys. Buckle up. But yeah, this is the scene where Tegan and the lady are looking at the canister they've laid in the bed to pretend to be a body. And they literally... Oh, her name's Professor Laird. She looks at it and she goes, "It's not bad." Like, you're a liar. You're an absolute liar. It's terrible. Yeah, but Tegan's pretty down with reality. She understands it's shit. Have you frozen for me?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, good. Your video's frozen, but your audio's fine.
Good.
Then we hear the what are they called?
The clone?
The clones, the duplicate soldiers come back.
The clone troopers.
Yeah, the clone troopers come back. And so the Tegan and that completely abandon their plan, and she just jumps into bed.
Nice.
The weird bit of staging here, Tegan opens the bed, gives the canister to Professor Laird, and climbs into bed. Professor Laird holds the canister, looks around as if like, where am I going to put it? And then just hands it back to Tegan, where she hides it in bed.
Oh my god.
Oh, this is a weird bit of blocking. Like,
Yeah, there is a lot of weird blocking in this episode, I would say. But then it goes back to that thing where they literally had to be out there by 10 p.m.
yeah, it's just no time to do it twice. You know, we've got to get
Yeah.
everything in one take.
Like the cameraman would plead the director just to stay behind for like 10 extra minutes to get a shot in focus. That's how bad it was.
God. But the clone troopers come back and basically reveal that yeah, okay, we are clones. You knew that already. We know Tegan's faking it. We're going to take you to the Daleks now.
Tegan is sick, not for much longer, is
Yeah.
kind of a great line.
Yeah, because you know she's going to become a clone and she's going to die.
It's such a good threat as well. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a threat, but it is a threat.
Yeah. And then we cut to Davros looking at a scientist man who he's going to brainwash.
He looks like young Chris Chibnall. He's very geeky and ginger.
He is very geeky and ginger, yeah. I relate with him a lot as a character. The way that he looks to me is either like a writer for Doctor Who or someone that won a contest to be an extra.
Both are possible. And again,
Yeah.
with that door where we have to step over
Yeah,
the little
it's
thing at the bottom.
such an awkward door. But they brainwash this scientist man to work with Davros. And then we cut away to a computer which says access to self-destruct procedure is classified information. Please insert your security number clearance number. What? Please insert your security clearance number. There we go. I can't read.
This is like the year 2499 or something, and the computers still look like we're from the 80s.
You know, it's like the Alien sort of sci-fi, where it's like really far in the future, but like the computers are pieces of shit.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's an aesthetic that I really like in sci-fi, and I kind of wish it came back a bit. You know, that like retro futurism.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. But they're looking for the code. They figure out that the guy that they sent away with Turlo could have it. I think that's who they're talking to, or it's someone else. Basically, someone they have to radio will have a code, and they're just going to have to hope that the Daleks don't track their radio call as they do it, which is a pretty big gamble. But the lady starts flicking through the CCTV, and oh gosh, no, the stormtroopers are outside.
Very convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient that they're just outside.
And also, like, there's a guard outside, I think.
Yeah, he runs in.
And also, why wasn't the door closed?
Yeah, you know, to let the fresh air in on the spaceship.
There's a lot that doesn't add up.
Yeah, there is, but you know, the stormtroopers arrive. They shoot the security camera outside the door. And I really like this setting of, you know, they're trapped in a room. They have to blow up the entire ship from that room, and on the outside's the stormtroopers. You know,
Yeah.
they're basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either way, they're gonna be dead. Which leads the lady to be like, screw it, I'm just gonna start pressing buttons. Basically, is her reasoning. She literally says, I've got nothing to lose. Like,
There's a lot of random pressing buttons in this episode.
yeah. We cut back to the doctor getting, I guess, how would you describe this? He's getting stuff stuck to his face.
Yeah, like little
Heartbeat monitor things,
Yeah.
which they're going to be using to take his brainwaves, and he's just asking questions. I really enjoy these conversations with the doctor. Peter Davidson. Oh, excuse me. Peter Davidson is on fire in this episode. I love every scene he's in. I don't know what it is. I think it just they figured out the writing for him from part one, and they've really nailed him in this.
Yeah, this episode has his best performance for sure. He's great.
He basically starts talking and coaxing the Daleks into figuring out their plan through conversation as they're going, which is what the Doctor should do, you know? He shouldn't just grab a gun and shoot a fucking cat, or go to shoot a cat. Interesting thing here, the closed captions are very different than what the actual dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the closed captions are from the script, like taken fresh from the script, and obviously, you know, script to screen isn't usually 1-to-1. Usually the actor will either forget or improvise some lines to make it sound more natural as they're going.
I noticed the same thing on the DVD. It's very different to what they actually say. So I guess they took it directly from the DVD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Because like just the example here, the Doctor says, "Superior, it took you long enough to ensnare the TARDIS in the time corridor." But in the closed captions, it says, "Superior, it took you eons to ensnare the TARDIS in the time corridor."
Exactly the same thing I noticed last time.
Yeah, interesting. It's such a strange little difference.
Also, the Daleks reply with, Daleks are a superior being. We do not require assistance. He says, with a guard right behind him.
Yeah,
Wait,
and with a guard behind him and a clone in front of him, literally assisting them to tie up and like put the medical stuff on the Doctor.
like we don't have hands. We need assistance.
But this is where we find out that Stein is a clone, and the Doctor starts talking to him, and I really enjoyed this stuff where he's like, "I wonder what happened to the real you," you know.
Yeah.
And that starts the seed with Stein, where he starts to break his Dalek programming, and
it's a good subtle bit of trying to overcome what the Daleks are doing as well. Like, the Daleks won't recognize that he's trying to stop them in that moment.
Yeah. Again, the Doctor is so good in this episode. For the most part, there's one dumb bit at the end, but for the most part, the Doctor is really, really good in this episode. But we then come back to Turlough and his epic stealth skills, and this bit really shocked me. And I don't know why, considering the episode, but he's looking over at the guards. He's like, the time corridor's over that way where these guards are, and the rebel he's with is like, "What do we do about the troopers?" And Turlough just goes, "We kill them." We just kill them, like, just flat out. We kill them, and it was like, oh god, you're just gonna. Turlough is very murderous in this episode. Is he always this murderous?
Dude, I honestly can't remember his character at all. I'm not the biggest fan of the Fifth Doctor era, which, yeah, he's also not the best character in general, so I can't remember.
He's very murderous in this episode. He's very eager to kill, but the rebel that he's with is like, we can't kill them and the Daleks. We need you basically to go back. This is too dangerous. Which Turlough's like, "No, we'll do it." But then the rebel he's with kind of turns on him, points the gun at him. Is like, "No, we go back. I'm taking charge here." And Turlough's left with real no option. It's a somewhat pointless scene. And really, the structuring for it is to get Turlough and the rebel outside of the building before the guards show up, so that they can come back and get killed, minus Turlough, and then captured again.
Yeah,
It's really a kind of convoluted blocking to be like, okay, these go here, then they go back, and then this happens, and then da just to get the pieces to fit together.
I also like how you can see the edge of the set, with a little tunnel. You can see just a glow of white at the back.
Yeah, that's the time corridor.
But it is like a nice little bit of... They didn't have budget, and they wanted that room to look like it goes on for eons, so just add a glowing white light.
Yeah, it works pretty effectively. I'm confused here.
Yeah?
We cut to Tegan and the bed, and they're stuffing... Is it a body?
No, it's another cylinder.
But it's so much bigger.
I think we put together 2 cylinders this time.
That would make more sense. They've not explained it. It just looks like they've like knocked out someone and stuffed them in the bed.
But yeah, this is like 11 minutes in, and that's all we've been doing all episode.
Yeah, they've literally not been doing anything but stuffing stuff in a bed and going, oh, that doesn't work. But the lady that Tegan's with is like, I'm just going to stay here and try and sell the lie so that you can escape longer, which is fair enough because the bed's not going to work. You need the distraction, and that's some actually sound logic in this episode.
It's their first good plan.
And so Tegan sets off by herself. She walks very like 1950s. I just realized that.
In what way?
And that she's like, her hands are like out to the side, and like her palms are facing down to the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's walking like she's on a catwalk or something.
It does look like she's trying to be quiet, and I guess that helps her balance.
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a weird way to walk that I never noticed before. But we then cut back to the stormtroopers. We're all over the place in this episode.
We really are.
And the stormtroopers are like, we could blow up the wall. And he's like, yeah, we could. And he's like, cool, we'll attack on 2 fronts. And then we literally cut back to Tegan. That's the whole scene.
Yeah, it's
so...
Does this scene go on for the policeman shoot?
I don't remember.
No, it ends.
No, it just ends. Tegan is struggling to open a door, and then it ends. That's it. That's so weirdly structured. So we watch Tegan leave a room. We cut away to look at people talking about getting into a room, and then we cut back to Tegan unable to get out of a room.
Yeah, and they're different locations.
Yeah.
It's so unfocused.
Yeah, it is all over the place. But then we're back to Davros, who's just stalking everyone on CCTV and brainwashing whoever comes to his door, basically. As a security guard comes to the door and they brainwash him, and then we cut away again to the rebels and the self-destruct machine. She's fiddling with the knobs, which is
they're removing the set. I'm not quite sure what we're doing.
It's because they're literally taking down the set. They need to wrap up.
I guess.
Yeah, those aren't extras. Those are stagehands. Like.
Yeah, the director was like, just put on some suits and just start taking down the set. It's okay.
Yeah,
we'll keep filming.
We'll work around you. You know, don't wait for us. But then we cut back to the Doctor talking about the duplicates, and he's like, oh, how does the duplicates work? It's very clever. And he's asking.
Stein is so gingerly putting the things on his head, even though we're already there. But he's like, let's just make sure it's on, okay?
Yeah, it's it's very much like this task didn't take me as long as I thought it was going to.
There's a lot of actors just not sure what to do with their hands.
It all goes down to direction, man. You know, and set design. Really, the props to stick on the Doctor's like 3 sticky things. That really doesn't take long to do, yet they have this really long conversation together. And so just the blocking for it's a bit weird. Yeah,
and then we get the reveal of Tegan and Turlough clones, which again doesn't make sense.
It literally makes no sense how it happened. I don't get it. It's the biggest plot hole in the episode for me.
Like all they've seen is CCTV footage of them, and it's like, you can't do that.
Yeah, just the thing right here on this wide shot, right, where the Doctor's strapped into the bed. Before we cut to the close-ups of it looks like Peter Davidson's playing with the bubble wrap.
It does.
He's just got some of it in his hand.
But when he's probably been lying there for like 2 hours.
Yeah, it'll just give him something to do.
And he's just
also, big fan of his shoes. Never seen his shoes really, but big fan of his shoes. I like them a lot.
Oh yeah, he does. He's the Doctor who plays cricket, so.
Is he the doctor that I wonder if he was the is oh my god, what's his name? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy man. Douglas Adams. Is Douglas Adams working on Doctor Who at this point?
I think he was gone at this point.
Gone. Because
Yeah.
because the third Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book was supposed to be a Doctor Who episode, and it's entirely about cricket. Just wondering if perhaps
Let
it
me
was
just-
supposed to be this Doctor.
I think his last season was season 17, which was the second to last Tom Baker season. So,
Ah, never mind then.
but
That
but
would've been
but maybe it was. Maybe they threw it in just for Douglas Adams as a tribute.
yeah, maybe maybe that would have been that would make sense.
Is there a fly in your room?
No, there's a leaky pipe in my flat at the moment, and it's making my wall a bit wet, and so just some of the wallpaper was looking bubbly, and I was just making sure it wasn't full of water.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not wet, so.
That's not what you want to hear. I mean,
Yeah, we get the reveal of Tegan and Turlo, and it's silly and silly.
and then there's a plan to assassinate some Time Lords, and it's like, why don't the Daleks do that themselves?
I get the idea that the Doctor would be able to infiltrate the High Council without it being a big attack, you know?
Yeah, but
And triggering the Time War. But it's a plot line that, as far as I'm aware, never gets picked up.
no.
Yeah.
It's
They mention it here and only here, and that's it. They never mention it again, even in the episode.
yeah, it's
It's
Is it-
do you know what it is? It's for an ad break. That's what it will be for.
an ad break that didn't exist
Yeah,
at the time.
an ad break for a show that doesn't have ads. Because he goes, no! And that's just a great place to cut to an ad. Or maybe it's
Like-
for the trailer, you know?
But I could see UK TV Gold stopping there, being like,
Oh, yeah.
this Doctor Who is sponsored by Kit Kats.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good ad. It's a good break. It's the end of the first act, really.
Yeah.
But we then cut back to the stormtroopers trying to unlock the door as a guy just paces back and forth, and we see Turlo and his rebel mate sneak up on them. And is this the big gunfire scene?
Nope.
No.
The scene just
Oh,
ends.
I did like this scene though, because it's Turlo using logic, you know, where he's like, we can't get past these guards. We've only got one gun, but think for a moment. Why haven't they left this ship? You know, why are they trying to stop us blowing up this ship? There's something on here that they need that we have, and then they figure out it's Davros. We need to go kill Davros.
Yeah,
Which is-
I do like it's like the first time the companions have done something smart in a story.
Yeah, he's actually looking at his situation and figuring out how to get past it.
He's still incredibly underwritten, but he's doing something at least.
He's still underwritten and still very murderous. Like his plan is still kill. But yeah, that it's a plan, which is good. Although I didn't like the scene where they then went to Davros's hyperbolic chamber, but we'll get to that when it shows up. But speaking of Davros, he's back as we cut to him and some Daleks. And oh my god, I never noticed this. A Dalek hits the door on its way in and it shakes a bit. Like
Oh,
whoever was piloting the Dalek jumped the gun a bit, and the plunger bumps into the door, causes the Dalek to wobble. It's very, very, very minute. It's just funny.
Okay, yeah, I see it. So it's a bit like the stormtrooper hitting his head in A New Hope.
Yeah.
And also,
Against-
it's the Dalek with a crooked head. You can see like a little space between the head and the neck,
yeah.
and it also moves slightly. It's not a good costume.
This is the one that opens up. Do they open up the other one?
They open up both of them.
Ah.
And
I
the
was
one on the
thinking
left.
Maybe they just kept this one. Yeah, the one on the left's definitely in worse condition. Even the paint on it looks a bit like darker.
Like when it opens up, you'll see that the one on the left has like a little bit of a crooked head.
But yeah, these are the Daleks that have been brought forward from the Supreme Dalek for their Dalek meat, is what I'm going to call it. Their Dalek meat to be used in the experiment with Davros, which is actually a double bluff. He's just going to brainwash them. And so he slyly hands his brainwashing machine to his assistant as the Daleks open their heads. Oh, I just got very bad heartburn. Goodness. And the assistant stabs the mutant inside and obviously brainwashes them for Davros, which, you know, his plan is pretty solid. Slowly brainwash people until he takes control again.
Also, look as the heads are closed and you'll see the one on the left is just crooked.
I'll see. Hang on, they're just opening up the second one on for me at the moment.
It looks a bit like
oh god,
Pac-Man's
yeah,
mouth.
it's so crooked, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like it's like about to fall off.
It's at like a 30-degree angle.
Yeah,
where-
it's not on the Dalek's neck essentially properly,
Yeah.
which
It kind of closes properly, but
they would have fixed it after. They would have, you know, someone would have just come up and moved it.
yeah. Again, that head is probably from like early 60s and the body is from like the 70s. It's not in good condition at this point.
Yeah, it's completely understandable, and still impressive that it's working as well as it is, considering how old it is. You know, like it's remote controlled and remote controlled the head opening and everything.
I do wonder, a lot of Daleks get destroyed completely in this episode. I wonder if that's just a way of being like, we're tired of using these old props.
Yeah,
and
we need
want
new
to
ones.
Yeah.
And we need to convince the BBC that we need to get new ones. Like, what happened to the old ones? They all blew up. Like
that's a brilliant way to get more Dalek props.
Yeah. Davros tells the Daleks to get him the virus now because he needs the virus for his experiment. And then we cut away to Tegan looking out a broken glass window and then climbing up another window. And then we cut away. Literally, that scene was so short, I forgot it existed.
It is a good shot, though. It's like
it's a very nice shot. Yeah, it's very cinematic.
Yeah. Like, the director in the commentary is very proud of getting that shot done. Like,
hey, man, it's probably one of the nicest shots in the episode.
Yeah.
We then cut back to the Daleks. I guess that's the Supreme Dalek talking.
I think so, yeah.
As he's getting the virus ordered from Amazon to arrive. Basically, he's telling a Dalek to get a virus from Earth up onto the ship, and then we cut away. Is that scene needed?
Not really.
Because we already know that the virus is coming because Davros asked for the virus to show up.
Yeah, it's a lot of re-establishing what just happened.
It's so you can, you know, because you went off to make yourself a cup of tea, so you might have missed this. So.
And this is 1984, and they didn't have Sky Plus, so
yeah, you can't just rewind, or pause it. But we cut back to Turlo, and he's in Davros's hyperbolic chamber, and Davros obviously isn't there anymore. And this is what I don't like about it. Is they're like, oh, we could the rebel he's with is like, oh, we could go look for Davros again. He can't have gotten very far from here. And then Turlo's like, oh no, he could be anywhere. We could be looking for him for hours. Let's just not find him.
yeah.
And it's like, Turlo, it was your idea to kill him.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of hitting a dead end when the character immediately goes back on what he wants to do.
Yeah, and then you've got this, and that now the rebel is really into killing Davros, and he's telling Turlo he's got no option but to come with him. It's a complete flip on the dynamic from the last scene, you know.
It's like if you have a movie about a race car driver and he's setting up for a big race. He turns up, a wheel is flat, and he's just like, ah, fuck this, I'm going home.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I didn't want to race anyway, really. Yeah, it's weird. But we then cut back to a Professor Lard, or not Lard, Laird, Professor Laird.
Yes, her name, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And she's looking, and we see one of the canisters get teleported away. And see, we don't need the scene with the Emperor Dalek, not the Emperor Dalek, the Supreme Dalek, because we can have that scene with Davros, and then cut to this scene where it's getting teleported away, and then bam, you've cut out a pointless 10-second scene. But whatever. Apparently the transporting sound is really loud, and
which wasn't established before.
Yeah, and I don't think ever comes back, and the professor collapses out of the loudness, and then we cut away. Again, I don't think she needs to be in the scene.
Yeah, just
I don't think it does anything.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but we cut. We cut back to the Doctor, and Stein is still fiddling with the.
I know.
Essentially suction cups on his head. There's 3 of them. He's still fiddling with them.
It's because we've written a 15-minute long monologue when the process should have started like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it should be a very short process. It's taking forever.
But the Daleks need to explain their evil plan so the Doctor can stop it.
Yeah, but they tell the Stein very conveniently that he's going to be left by himself because the Daleks have to go off and do something else. And so it's just going to be Stein and the Doctor. Nothing to worry about. I'm sure nothing will go wrong here.
Like one couldn't stay behind.
They couldn't leave the guard in the room. The Daleks leave, and then really weirdly tell the guards to wait outside.
Yeah.
Why? Like the guards aren't going with the Daleks. The Dalek just goes, "You'll wait outside. Fuck you."
Like I get to guard the room. I understand. How many guards are there?
2. So you have one outside, one inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit silly.
But you need to get the Doctor out there somehow, and
yeah.
Yeah.
But we then get a bit of discussion with the Doctor and Stein, where the Doctor's like, "Oh, just get on with it, whatever. Don't pity me. Just let's just do this." And Stein's mental, like his brainwashing starts to fall apart, and we get his stutter back, where he's like, "Do you think I do this because I choice?" And like he it starts his stutter, which. It was a note that you said the actor came up with himself.
Yeah, and I think it's a brilliant example of the actor elevating the character.
Mm-hmm.
It really works.
Yeah, and he it ends with him like asking himself, does he have a choice, and realizing he doesn't, and he doesn't really have free will of the thing, and it's the start of his mental break, and I really appreciate it. I thought his mental break kind of came out of nowhere. When it does happen, it kind of just suddenly happens, but we'll get there.
It's conflicting because earlier his stutter was there in scenes where he was alone, so it's my head canon. It was him all the time, kind of breaking free from his conditioning.
Yeah, he's always been trying to break free from it. Yeah.
Again, it's not being set up properly, but it's my head canon.
And then if we're talking about pointless scenes, we then cut to the Daleks and some of the soldiers. The gas canister teleports in. They say, "Take it to Davros," and then we cut away. That's a good scene, isn't it?
Again, they probably set up that scene for half an hour?
Yeah. It's an effect scene. We see the thing fade in as well.
Yeah. And they could have spent the half hour to get a shot in focus later on.
But we then cut to Tegan running down the streets.
Great scene.
She's made out the building. And then she walks past the camera, and oh no, the policemen officers are here.
And then it cuts.
And then it cuts away. Yeah, it's all over the place. But
I was gonna say great scene because in my head it was all one scene. There's no need to cut.
Yeah, it's weird. I watched this earlier today. I don't remember it cutting around so much.
Yeah. you're building tension, and then you just cut away from that tension.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this episode's paced really weirdly. It's paced really, really weirdly. But we're back with Turlo. How are the Daleks supposed to get in those rooms?
I mean, it's another cut.
Yeah, it's another cut where from there, but you know the rooms with
yeah.
the steps, because that's
Yeah.
not. Isn't the Davros's room have a weird step door as well?
It does.
How do the Daleks get in?
It's very wheelchair inaccessible.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like,
But,
I do want to sit down and just talk to like the set designer, ask, what is up with those steps? Why?
But Turlo and his rebel friend find out that Davros is in the science room doing experiments, basically, and we cut back to the self-destruct room with the rebels continuing to fiddle with stuff, and oh goodness, she gets it open. Oh my god, she's about to kill herself. A line that I really liked here from her is, why am I so excited? It's the last thing I'm ever going to do. I was like,
Yeah,
that's
that is a good line.
Yeah, that was a very good line. But we cut to a Science Man, and I think there's something wrong with the gloves that he's putting on, because he can't quite get his hands to fit in it properly, and it looks so silly. His like hands are like wobbling, like the glove isn't filled properly, and it just kind of looks like they're full of air.
It reminds me of Mr. Burns in the bowling episode where he puts his hand over the bowling. You know, the bit that shoots air, and his fingers are just blowing around.
Yeah, it looks very silly. Thankfully, they fix it in the next shot, but yeah.
Okay,
and
another bad bit of staging here.
Yeah.
Like, the two guards in Davis's room begin to put up their guns, but the shot doesn't last long enough to process what they're doing.
Yeah, and Davros's security guard karate chops them, and it only takes down one of them, and the other guy's fine. Like,
yeah,
it's very weird. But I think
and again, it happens in like 2 seconds.
It's so quick. Yeah, if you blink, you miss it. But a thing that I really liked here is the guard that was faster at drawing the gun, and the one that gets knocked out. Davros is like, oh, a spirited but foolish reaction. He'll make an excellent slave. It's just a line that I really liked.
Also, the guard has a very 80s mustache.
He does. Does have a very 80s mustache.
It reminds me of Empire Strikes Back with the guy with the mutton chops.
They're coming back. But we then cut to Professor Laird, and she's confronted by the duplicates, and she's like, one of the cylinders has vanished. Oh no! I mean, which is true. One of them did vanish, but the guard immediately flips the bed and is like, oh, there's a cylinder under the bed. So their plan really didn't work at all.
Yeah.
I feel like she probably would have been better just leaving, because she was there by herself for quite some time before the guards came back.
She could have easily escaped, yeah.
Yeah. But the guards grab her and are like, where's Tegan? What's happened to her? And she starts screaming a lot, really.
I don't like this screaming, but her scream later on when she's getting killed. Oh, that's a good scream.
We cut to Tegan in the streets as and see, look, that's a cut that makes narrative sense. It's where's Tegan? What, you know, where's this character? And then we cut to that character. Like, and we see that she's in old London. As she's walking about by her lonesome. This scene I thought was so dark that we're about to describe. She sees the two policemen officers coming up to her. She has like, oh, I'm safe, for the briefest of moments before being like, oh wait, no, this isn't, something's wrong here. They're holding a gun.
Acting.
Yeah, it was a very good bit of acting. She sees the gun. She starts running down the street. kind of stupidly in a straight line. You might want to throw some zigzags in there. But she runs down the street and she sees a man with a metal detector on the beach. She starts shouting for help, and begins to run down the stairs towards him. As the police march up, they take one look at her, aim the gun, and then decide, you know what, screw it, and they shoot the man on the beach. And it's like, god damn.
The man wasn't even aware of what was happening. Yeah. He didn't even turn around when she screamed.
Yeah, he had headphones on. He was just looking for some metal at the beach. Back turned, and bang, he gets shot, cold dead. And yeah, I think the darkest scene in the whole episode.
And it really does help set up her exit, even if it was like poorly written last minute.
Yeah.
Like I would leave a doctor if I just saw a man getting shot for no reason.
Yeah, there's a line that she says, which, you know, we'll discuss probably a bit more later on, where she says, like, it's not fun anymore. And I thought that was a really good line, where she's like, this is, you know, it's no longer a fun adventure. You know, people are getting murdered and killed, and there's death in front of me and stuff like that. It's no longer like, let's have a trip through time and look at funky aliens.
Yeah. But to be fair, that's kind of always traveling with a doctor. You're always in danger.
Yeah. And we cut back to the doctor, and he's about to have his brainwaves copied, I guess, is a way that it works. And he asks Stein if he even has a choice in this, and which Stein starts talking about the 25th Amendment, I think it was.
Yeah.
And do you have any idea what he's referring to?
I think I looked it up. I think it's the freedom of speech, which I guess kind of works. I'm not exactly sure if I was looking at the right thing though. So
yeah, yeah, it's weird, but he starts like being like, "What? You don't know that amendment? Didn't you go to school?" And the doctor has just a fantastic line of, "Yeah, maybe we just didn't go to the same school." Yeah.
Also, isn't he from like the far future? And
yeah,
I think he's an alien. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I just imagined he's from Earth, but from the future, because the time corridors, how they got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird that he's really into 80s or like 60s or like maybe even 40s, however old this man is. Specific education of law.
Yeah.
But the doctor starts asking him questions like, what school did you go to? And, you know, trying to get his memory to come in so that he can get back his personality. And I thought this scene was really, really good.
And then we just see Tegan walking. Not needed.
Yeah, then, as you said, we've got Tegan just walking down the street with two police officers. Quietly, they walk, they turn a corner, and we cut away. It's thrilling, almost, you know? Do you think... I think a lot of this, you know, besides the, like, weird, awkward pacing and it being kind of a messy episode, I think some of it's to pad the runtime.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah.
Because they have to fill that, like, 20-minute mark for the BBC.
Well, it's like an hour and 40 for the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing they only had, like, enough story in there for, like, an hour 15 at most.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
that's a lot of Doctor Who. It's just padding time until the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like, they have to work in a cliffhanger somehow.
Yeah, it was structured really weird back then, wasn't it? But we cut back to the rebels and the self-destruct machine. They're like, oh god, the stormtroopers are almost in. But they're like, oh god, we've almost ready to blow it up. Everything's coming in at once. She grabs her hand on the lever to blow up the ship just as the door opens. And if I'm her, I pull the lever. Why'd you wait? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but she gets shot and she's dead, and then gunfire starts off, and it just looks like laser tag.
Like, also, there's no special effects to show that we're actually shooting them.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
it's literally just lights on a gun.
yeah, the end of the gun lights up and that's it.
It looks so silly. It just looks like they're pretending. Like,
Probably because they are.
yeah, I know, yeah, but like it's really bad in the scene that's about to come up with Stein and the rebel that's with Turlo. I thought that's it. I thought it's so bad, but we'll get there. But speaking of Turlo, we then cut back to Turlo and the rebel as they hear the gunfire and they're like, God, we need to go save. And Turlo's like, no, you can't do anything. You know, it's you would have died if you were there. We've got to go and solve this, and we've got to go to Earth now. It's down to us to escape. Which is, fair enough reasoning. Still kind of dark. Still don't kind of trust Turlo. He's just got an evil vibe to him.
Yeah, he does. He does look rather shifty.
Yeah. But we then cut back to the stormtroopers taking away the dead bodies, as the Daleks and stuff flood the self-destruct room, and basically Lytton gets chewed out by one of the Daleks. That's literally it. Lytton gets told off by one of the Daleks, and then we cut away. But we cut back.
How many scenes do you think we've seen so far?
Oh God! If I had to guess,
It has to be like 50 or 60.
yeah, an incredible amount, and we are coming up to about halfway through. So this is going to be a long ass episode.
How long are we in?
We are 1 hour 25 in.
How?
Yeah, I know. It's we are 21 minutes into the episode. We have 25 left. We're basically halfway through.
And the last one was like the last episode we did was an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And
A lot more happens in this episode, but it's still cutting around just as quickly. It's crazy.
Let's try to speed this up a bit.
Tegan gets brought in front of Professor Laird, and they're basically like, they're going to take us to the Daleks, and Professor Laird just runs away, and then she gets gunned down dead. I thought that was so dark, and like just like, oh, she's gone now. It's another body dead.
Her scream is just...
It's quite horrifying, isn't it?
One thing I would critique is we don't need to see the body falling over because that kind of reduces the drama. Mm-hmm. Just hearing the scream and the thud would have been much more effective.
Yeah, if she ran through the doorway, you hear the gun, you see the gunshot go bang, and it's like, ah, thud. Yeah, I think because it's such a good scream as well. Like, it's. And again, it's another thing for Tegan, seeing another person, someone who she was like with the entire time this episode, just get gunned down in front of her. But they take Tegan off into the time corridor. We're back with the Doctor, as I really like this scene where they're like looking through the Doctor's memories, and it's got this weird effect, but the effect that they put on it is also kind of hilarious.
It looks like Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah, it's like Windows Movie Maker stuff where it's like this wave effect with all the footage, but it warps everyone's faces so that they look hilarious. Like, it's like, have you seen the paused image from The Phantom Menace with Palpatine, where like the hologram of him is like shifting about and someone paused it as it's shifting, so he's just like this weird warped man?
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's that, but for like so many scenes of Doctor Who, and I thought it was so funny.
Also, a critique for this scene is this means nothing to you, but they forgot Leela, one of his companions. Like, they just skip her out entirely.
Wow. I mean, maybe she was busy with the Planet Express at the time.
Good one. Actually, I think Leela was named after a Doctor Who character. I'm not entirely sure about that.
It seems like a thing that the David X. Cohen would do. Because Futurama's full of stuff like that.
And Tom Baker does make several cameos.
Yeah, he does. But yeah, basically it's a going back in time and looking at all of the Doctor's companions, and eventually you see like the previous Doctors and things like that. Hey, there's K9. I can't wait to cover him. But yeah, you could pause this scene many times and get some fantastic looking screenshots. Because everybody looks so silly. We cut back to Davros and his science man, who's finally figured out how to get the gloves on. As he's injecting a thing into a capsule. I think it's the virus. He's injecting the virus into the capsule.
Yeah.
And is it just me, or does it look like he's not actually like? It looks like he's doing like a forced perspective, and the actual needle's going behind it. It doesn't look like it's inside it at all. You see it more when he's like moving because his hand shakes.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it's a forced perspective. I don't think it's a working needle.
No, well, it's not a working needle for sure, but it's actually on the cylinder. I think you can see it as the camera starts moving. It's hard with an SD image, but it looks like it's fair. It's fine.
There's a bit about like 22, 25-ish, where the camera's panning out, and for the briefest of moments, the guy holds the needle too high up, and then he puts it back down and pulls it out like this. But I don't know. It's weird. I mean, it probably, it's cheap props. They have not very big budgets. The tiniest little detail to focus in on, but it just caught my eye.
They didn't count on us. Like 35 years later, pausing this.
God, I didn't even listen to what Davros said. Yeah, the Davros is basically finding out that the Doctor's been taken prisoner, and that the ship's not about to explode, which is always good news. It's a good day for Davros right now.
I love how hold on. The guy he talks to he talks to Davros. I mean, he turns around, pushes like 2 buttons, then turns around to face Davros, to face his back. I mean, he just folds his arms like he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, the blocking is really weird, but at least Davros' performance here is lovely.
He kind of turns around as if he's like, oh, everybody else is facing this way. I should also face this way.
What's going on over here? But yeah, Davros starts talking about how he's going to build new Daleks and he was going to be the leader again, and it's just a very good monologue. I really like Davros' voice in this, the weird like robotic shouting that he has.
Yeah, it's really good. This is also the end of part 3.
Really?
That's a cliffhanger.
That's a pretty good cliffhanger. It's a good monologue to end it on.
Anytime when you get Davros just shouting his head off, you're in for a good cliffhanger.
I can't believe we still have essentially a whole episode still.
I know.
Sweet Christ. Oh. This is a long part 2.
I know.
So Tegan is in front of where the TARDIS came in on the spaceship, and she runs into Turlo and his rebel friend, where his rebel friend immediately goes to shoot Tegan.
He said he pointed the gun at her to stop her from screaming. Pointing guns at people tends to cause for screaming.
Yeah. But Turlo tackles into the back of him and shouts at him.
There is a lot of shouting in this episode.
There's a lot of shouting followed by, like, quiet talking. Especially with Turlo. He'll be like, "You fool!" Like... Which is it's an interesting way to read his lines, but I guess he did it. Also, there's a weird sexual tension with Tegan and Turlo. He's like, "It's Tegan, you fool." Then he grabs her by the hand, looks her in the eye, and goes, "She's a friend."
Yeah, it looks like he's like struggling to maintain eye contact as well. Like he's nervous. It's
yeah.
I've not picked up on that before.
Yeah, he's got a big old crush on her. Not that it's gonna pay off in any way. But this is where Turlo finds out that the Doctor's on the ship, and Tegan quite promptly says, "Look behind you at the TARDIS, you fucking moron." uh, which he discovers it, and we then cut to the Doctor getting his brain melted, since we continue to look at the funny faces from his history.
He's still in flashback mode, but this time he's in black and white.
Yeah, the past used to be black and white. Do you not remember?
Color
wasn't invented until like the 50s.
I think Jason, our friend, told us that he used to think everything was in black and white, like the whole world at one point. As a kid.
And he wasn't wrong. We spend quite a long time on this scene looking at Peter Davidson moan.
Yeah,
and I don't know how I feel about it.
It's definitely not an episode to watch in public.
But this is where Stein finally breaks his mental conditioning.
Yeah, he also starts screaming.
Yeah, he also joins in the screaming with the Doctor. He shuts off the machine scanning the Doctor's mind, practically saving the Doctor.
Also, I'm wondering if all the bodies in the background are real, or if they're just like some of them has to be dummies, right?
They've all looked pretty real to me, all the dead bodies. It's just extras they paid to lie down. Like,
good day on the job, just lie down on some bubble wrap.
Yeah. We cut to Davros very briefly there, and he tells them to basically get the TARDIS, and the classic villain mode of let's steal the TARDIS.
Yeah, even though we wouldn't probably know how to work the TARDIS.
They wouldn't be able to get into it.
Like the Doctor can't even work the TARDIS.
We cut to Turlo and Tegan running into the dead bodies, which, maybe that one they're dummies, because it's just legs.
Yeah.
But every other time, I think it's been actual people. They like going into that room. That's like every character has gone into the dead body room in this episode. Like,
they just sort of stand there, kind of.
Yeah, they just look at the dead bodies and the door closes before a Dalek shows up. It's very strange blocking. But the Doctor and Stein have got some guards captive, holding guns at them. And the Stein's worried that his mental conditioning's going to come back and he could kill the Doctor, and the Doctor's like, it's fine, whatever, you just come with me.
Yeah, it is weird. We all sort of turn their back on him, like he could stab him at the back at any time.
Yeah, but we cut back to Turlo, and they open the door, and wouldn't you know it, just across the hall was the Doctor this whole time. And they run into the Doctor, and I really like this scene where, he finally gets reunited with his companions after all this time, and the first thing he says is, "Don't stand there, come and help me."
Yeah, we haven't seen them in the same room together since, like, 25 minutes into part 1?
Yeah,
something like that.
Especially Turlo. Turlo goes away, like, immediately into part 1.
Yeah.
And he doesn't meet the Doctor until halfway through part 2. And the Doctor's first reaction is, "Come and help me. What are you doing?" Then we get to the Daleks and Lytton shouting at one another, which is, it's kind of pointless, because then we cut back to the Doctor. He's just there to say that he wants to get his special guard to come, and I don't remember what his special guard were, which I guess we're going to find out. But
yeah. It is a lot of cutting back and forth again.
Yeah. That's the theme of this two-parter. But we're back with the Doctor and Turlo as they're strapping one of the guards into the cloning bed. I guess because it's a secure place to keep him.
Yeah.
And Turlo spots the security camera that's been recording them this whole time. And they're like, "Oh boy, we've got to move. We've got to get out of here." And the Doctor shoots the recording tape that had his brainwaves on it.
It's weird because the Doctor has been in that room for like 2 parts now. And did they notice this security camera before?
Yeah, he had other things. Well, to be fair, he had Stein like over his entire body for like half of the time he was in there, just
True.
constantly checking and adjusting those things on his head. But we then cut to the Daleks deciding that they're going to kill Lytton as soon as he's no longer convenient, which, you know, was foreshadowed earlier on.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the Doctor. It's you know, the benefit of all the characters now being together, there's less places to cut to, but it does mean the pacing gets a bit weird as we're cutting away for 2 seconds and then cutting back, and then cutting away for 2 seconds and then cutting back.
Yeah.
But everyone's on the TARDIS again, so I guess the Daleks didn't guard the TARDIS. What took them so long to get there?
Yeah, it is weird. But
Yeah, they specifically were like, let's go secure this TARDIS, and then the next scene we see the Doctor's just on the TARDIS.
there's no idea of placement in this episode.
Yeah, you kind of lose the like legit the design of the ship. Like, you don't know where each room is and where it correlates to one another.
Yeah.
You know, people just walk down a corridor and then they are where they need to be. There was one bit I liked here where they ask the Doctor where they're going, and the Doctor says Earth, and then Turlough really weirdly goes, best news all day, and then slinks away. He's so evil. Like,
But is it good news to go back to Earth? Because you're still running into danger when you're on Earth. It's like,
yeah, and also you know, you're not solving this Dalek problem. You're just kind of leaving it.
yeah.
But this is where the Doctor finds out the plot of the episode, basically, with Davros and the cure to the virus and Davros's experiments and stuff. Just in case you forgot.
Yeah, but this scene is where the Doctor is determined to kill Davros.
And I think it's brilliant. I think Peter Davidson's performance here, especially his monologue where he's like, I'm going to kill Davros. You know, I had the opportunity to do it before and I didn't take it, and it was a mistake. And
Yeah, it really seems like something that's been bothering him since Genesis of the Daleks, which I like.
yeah, I also the music in this episode is very far and few between, but the sting that plays throughout this bit where he's talking about killing Davros, I think is absolutely fantastic. It's like very subtle and just adds to the dramaticism.
Yeah, yeah, it's not I am the Doctor for sure.
But the rebel man that was working with Turlough the whole time says that he's going to come with him, going to go with the Doctor, that is. The Doctor says, no, not at all. And then Stein says, I'm going to come with you as well. And the Doctor goes, oh, okay.
Yes, yeah, Stein, the guy who's kind of fighting against his conditioning, who could turn at you at any time. He's okay to come, yeah, sure. It's okay to have a gun pointed at his back.
Yeah, but he takes the rebel and he takes Stein and he leaves Turlough and Tegan in the TARDIS alone, as he, which, you know, taking Stein and the rebel actually worked out pretty well for the Doctor because those two can pretend to be the Dalek guards, which is, you know, actually smart.
Solid plan.
Mm-hmm. But this is the Davros asks if Peter Davidson could be the Doctor, which I'm guessing is because they've never met.
Yeah, this is the first time the Fifth Doctor has met the Daleks outside of the five Doctors, but he didn't meet Davros in that one, so this is his first and final Dalek story.
Good bit of consistency with the he doesn't just know who the Doctor is. He's like, that's got to be the Doctor, right? Look at him.
But he does somehow magically know that the Doctor's a Time Lord, even though we've never had that conversation before.
I mean, you could the Daleks know the Doctor's a Time Lord. You could say that the Daleks perhaps told Davros at some point, you know? Because the Daleks want the Doctor to assassinate the High Council.
Fair,
you know?
Okay.
I think that you could justify it that way, but
I forgot about that plot point, but never gets brought up again. It really doesn't come up outside of that one scene.
It literally is just for that scene. They never bring it up again. It doesn't become a plot point at all.
No. Very strange.
Yeah. But the Daleks discover and tell Lytton that Davros has been up to some evil business, and he's converted two Daleks to be on his side via brainwashing, and that Lytton has to kill these Daleks and weaken Davros.
Also, you'll see this shot is out of focus. That's because of time restrictions. Like, the cameraman would literally beg the director just for 10 more minutes to make the shot in focus, but we ran out of time. It's insane, the time constraints we were working under.
Yeah, that's yeah, the focus is weird. Like, his lips are kind of in focus,
Yeah.
but the rest of him isn't. It's a very, very softly. You could call it softly focused. You know, it's slightly blurry. It's like if you weren't wearing your glasses and were very close to the screen.
Yeah.
But we then cut to the Doctor and Davros's confrontation, and I freaking loved this scene. Anytime the Doctor has just a straight up conversation with Davros is fantastic. But this whole scene goes into like the moral crisis the Doctor starts having about killing Davros.
It's also probably the longest scene, uninterrupted scene in the episode.
Yeah, and it to its benefit, because it actually allows the actors to breathe in their performance and play out the scene and build tension. And
Yeah, it's really, really solid stuff. Peter Davidson's best performance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great moment where the Doctor is chatting to Davros, like, all the destruction you're planning, you know, like, you're just going to go on and kill more people, and Davros is like, I'll only kill people that resist being under my rule and things like that. And the Doctor turns and grabs the gun, and he's like, I was foolish enough to think I wouldn't have to do this before I came in. You know, he was hoping he wouldn't have to threaten the Davros, and that for some reason Davros would have changed. And
It reminds me of Rose, which we've covered a few weeks ago, when the Doctor meets the nesting consciousness, and he's like, I'll give him a chance before I throw the vial in.
yeah.
So yeah, I like how the Doctor's always considers death as the last resort.
He always hopes for the best. He always hopes that they're going to make the right decision and become better. Even someone as obviously evil as Davros, he always hopes that for some reason he would have changed.
Yeah, but Peter Davison is definitely the most humane Doctor at this point, I
Except
would
for last episode, where he's got a gun.
To be fair, he was shooting a Dalek blob that would kill others, so
yeah. But this is Davros starts pleading with the Doctor as the Doctor points the gun at him, telling him that he has actually changed because he was planning on changing the Daleks, making them less ruthless and understand things outside of pure logic, which causes the Doctor to hesitate and be like, "Oh, but you're just doing it to make them more evil, you know, to be better killers." And
it's such a good scene. I'm just watching it. It's really solid stuff.
yeah, it's so well written and so well performed and shot and acted. It stands above like every other moment in this episode. It like Peter Davidson and the man who plays Davros, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment,
Terry Malloy.
Both of them are just bouncing off each other fantastically. It's like great monologue from Peter Davidson, great monologue from oh my god, was it Peter Malloy?
Terry Malloy.
Terry Malloy. Great monologue from Terry Malloy.
It's early in the morning. It's okay.
Just back and forth. It's absolutely superb. Yeah, there's a great moment where Davros is talking. He tells the Doctor to look at history, essentially, and name one planet that hasn't attempted to form an empire through war and things like that. It's just the way that things are. And then there's just a great line from Peter Davidson where he goes, "Which I do not accept." Like,
yeah, it's great. I do love just hearing Davros's rationale, because you could forget he's just evil, but he somewhat makes logical sense in what he's doing, in terms of his brain, what he wants to do. You can understand him.
Yeah, you can totally understand. You understand why he feels justified in what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And this is the Star Wars moment, I think, where Davros sitting in his, throne, talking to Luke Skywalker, telling him to join him. You will have the ultimate power ruling by my side. You know.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. This was written probably in like 1983, so
Yeah.
definitely. Tegan and Turlo get trapped in another time corridor.
They
And
love the time corridors.
it's represented on the computer as like just a load of squares.
The moving squares look like the vortex to me. Like, it looks like a 80s interpretation of the vortex.
I really love how 80s the TARDIS is. It's supposed to be like technology that outreaches any human potential, and all they show is squares.
Yeah. Yeah. They're limited by their technology at the time. It's got the charm to it. You could just say that, this Doctor likes spending a lot of time in 1980s London. Maybe he's just a fan of that era, and so he's modelled his TARDIS after it. We cut back to the Doctor and Davros, and this is, again, just a line that I absolutely loved, where the Doctor's pointing the gun at Davros, and Davros is like, "You hesitate. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't have hesitated. I would have killed you." Like,
Yeah, it's really I can't say it enough. It's just really good script and performances.
it's worth watching the episode for this scene alone. Like, this scene is so good.
If a scene wasn't in the episode, it probably wouldn't be as remembered as it is.
Yeah. And I think last episode, the part one, I really wasn't sold on Peter Davidson as the Doctor, because he's got a gun, he's running around, he's very violent and not very empathetic. And then in this part, just that scene pretty much sold me on him as the Doctor.
I would say Peter Davidson is very much like David Tennant, in that when he's under extreme circumstances, he does turn dark, like the end of The Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
And episodes like that, he does have his dark moments, which is what you need for the Doctor. Otherwise, he's too good for his own good.
Yeah, and it leads at the end of the episode where the Doctor, when Tegan says that she's leaving, and the Doctor's like, that she left for the same reasons I left Gallifrey. I'm going to have to change who I am. I've lost my way, Yeah. And he has that moment of self-realization. It's crazy how different the second half of this episode is compared to the first half. As soon as the Doctor meets up with his companions again, I think the episode becomes absolutely stellar,
Aye, yeah, definitely. Apart from the next scene, in which we'll...
It's the scene I've been waiting for. It's Stein and the Rebel Man are confronted with two guards. They have a brief conversation, but it quickly turns into gunfire, and the Rebel just shoots them dead. And Stein's like, did you have to kill these guys? And they're like, okay, we'll just hide the bodies away. Stein starts to try and fight his mental conditioning very briefly. And then they get confronted by even more Dalek troopers, and it turns into some of the worst laser tag fighting I think I've ever seen. It's
there's a moment they don't recognize them as Dalek troopers, because I think Stein is like, it's alright, there are troopers, when the guard is like, they're Dalek troopers, you idiot.
Yeah, I don't understand what he was saying there. It's going at there.
But I guess it's him still fighting his conditioning. He recognized them as his allies.
Yeah, I guess that
makes
be
sense.
A reasoning for it. Yeah, but it leads to some. It's so funny watching it. Some play. It would
look
fighting.
So much better if you just obscure part of the screen with special effects.
Yeah, it looks so silly. And Stein's basically like the kid on the playground who's like gets shot but doesn't believe he got shot, because he goes down and then he's like, "Oh no, I'm still alive!" Bah! And he shoots the other guy, and then like Stein's the only one to come out of it alive, and it's like you can see the other like trooper being like, "I shot you." "No, you didn't. You missed." It's like.
In the next scene, the Doctor steps very awkwardly out the door.
Yeah, the very awkward step door thing.
He backs up as well.
He backs out to where the gunfire and violence has been.
He somehow didn't hear the screaming. I'm not.
Yeah, it's weird blocking to get the Doctor to Stein, because why does the Doctor leave Davros alone?
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I think. Well, he does. He watches the camera, and he should have heard the screaming, but because it's awkwardly blocked, he doesn't step back until the fighting has ceased. Like, he should have really stepped back when the fighting started.
Yeah, it's very strange, but the Doctor says that he can help Stein, but Stein's like, "No, don't. The Dalek conditioning's taking hold. Leave me alone, or I'm gonna end up killing you." And Davros closes the door behind the Doctor, locking him out. And honestly, what was the Doctor expecting to happen?
Also, Stein steps up in a way, but he doesn't look hurt. He just steps up normally.
Yeah, because the shot's missed. You never hit him.
Like he looks like he's in pain, and then he tells the Doctor to stay where he is, and then immediately the pain in his expression goes away.
Yeah, it's very silly. And then there's some weird logic here. The Daleks are shouting at Lytton to kill Davros because he hasn't killed him yet. Basically, Davros is still alive. And Lytton very soundly goes, "Just blow up the station. Just destroy the station where Davros is." And then the leader Dalek goes, "No, I must see him dead." Which is, way less convenient than to just blow up the station and kill Davros.
To be fair, it's like Davros always survives. It's like the Master. You think he's dead, but he's somehow alive, even if you see the body burning.
Yeah. Which is something that I really liked when they brought Missy back. It was I remember seeing an interview with Stephen Moffat being like, one of my favorite things about the Master is in Classic Who, you would see him die all the time, but then he'd just be back the next episode.
Yeah, I love it. I do love it. And he was also very big into his silly disguises.
Yeah. I don't understand the scene with Lytton at the end of it, where the Dalek is telling him to kill the Davros Daleks, because he's already been told to do that. That's...
Yeah.
But we cut back to Stein, and he's trying to resist his mental conditioning. He's trying to think positive, essentially, and deciding to blow up the ship, because unlike the Daleks, he's smart, and he figures out that that'll kill most of the Daleks on the ship, as if he blows up the ship. But we cut to Turlo and Tegan, who are back down on Earth from the TARDIS, and they sneak out into the warehouse.
They get some cylinders, which is like the most they've done.
Yeah.
But also, it kind of becomes pointless because the Doctor uses the cylinders in the same room, so he could have just gotten the cylinders later on from the same room. So
yeah,
their only contribution is pointless in the end.
They made the Doctor have to walk less than 100 steps. That's what they did. Like, but we see Davros handing off the virus pods to his soldiers and telling them to basically kill the other Daleks by releasing the virus on their ship, which is fun. I enjoy how everybody's currently trying to kill everyone else. Like,
yeah, it's good stuff. And then we cut to my favorite scene in terms of how bad it is.
Yeah, there are the clone troopers from before are on Earth, and they meet Davros's Daleks, and basically they have to try and kill Davros's Daleks, and they have no hope in hell of doing it.
So the guard sees Davros's Daleks. He turns around and says, Davros's Daleks must be destroyed. And then the Dalek has a very long line. And then it cuts back to the guards, and one of them is looking the wrong way. And then it's like, one of them shouts now, and then they back up, and they don't take cover at all. It's very awkwardly staged.
They have lots of pillars and things they could hide behind, but they stand out in the open and just get shot by the Daleks.
Like, they do nothing when the Daleks are speaking. Like, do you notice one of them is just looking the wrong way? Even though he saw the Daleks before.
Yeah, and a Dalek straight up shoots a guy in the dick. Did you catch that? At around 34 minutes-ish, a Dalek comes and flanks the soldiers, getting them from behind. A soldier turns around and gets shot in the dick.
They also forgot to add the special effects with the Daleks' lasers.
Yeah, and for the first scene, there's no special effects until the Dalek comes, and then they made sure to add the special effect where you see the laser hit the guy in the dick. That's the important effect that they needed to add.
Also, the camera is becoming distorted with the technology. I think it's like the guns we're using is distorting the camera at one point. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that. Although a thing that I really like, because it's like on film and it's it's an old camera, and just because of the process of developing the film, whenever someone uses the laser gun and the light bulb flashes on it, if they then move the laser gun, you see like a bleeding effect on the light as it burns into the film.
It's not even film, it's videotape.
Oh, even better.
Like, I think some of the outside scenes are shot in film, but all the indoor scenes are just videotape.
Ooh.
But yeah, if you go to like 34 minutes in, there's like vertical lines all over the screen when the guard starts shooting.
Oh wow, yeah, there is, isn't there? Yeah, it's like some damaged tape. Yeah, don't know what happened there. It must have been something in the editing process, is my only guess, or an issue with the camera. But yeah. We then cut to Turlo and Tegan, who are
before we go there, there's like a Dalek that sneaks up right behind some guards. Like, they don't.
Yeah, and shoots him in the dick.
Oh yeah. And then one of them screams very awkwardly.
Yeah, it's not a very well put together scene. I don't think any of the action scenes in this are really well put together at all. Like the best scene in it is when it is just, the Doctor and Davros talking. I think that's when classic Who gets really good. It's when just people are talking. Same reason why like Star Trek and stuff's really good is when you have two characters talking about morals and their motivations and things like that. It's incredibly more compelling than watching people poorly play act fighting.
Yeah, definitely.
But we cut to Tegan and Turlo as they're looking at the gas canisters and deciding how much they need to take. Turlo says only one should be enough. Tegan goes, no, we should take another. And then Turlo sits down in a strop, and Tegan's like, fine. And she just grabs one and they leave.
Like, you could definitely take two. There's two people. You could take four. Carry each in one hand.
Yeah.
Like one
and they're
will
not
cover.
Heavy. There's established they're not heavy. Turlo's just lazy.
Carrying one will only affect one room. Like, what if you run into there's Daleks in multiple rooms? You need.
Yeah.
It's more efficient that way.
Yeah, but we cut back to Stein, who's making his way into the self-destruct room. He's trying to figure out how to sneak past the guards, and we then quickly again cut away to the Daleks and some stormtroopers. As Lytton teleports down onto Earth finally to hunt down Davros's Daleks, and smartly this time. He shouts, take cover. If only the other soldiers thought of that. What a tactical genius Lytton is.
And then a soldier starts dying, and he makes an awkward, like, I don't know what he would describe it as. Like, it's 35 minutes in. Did you hear it?
Yeah,
Kind
he
of
goes like, "Oh!"
Yes, it's such an odd noise to make when you're dying.
Yeah, there's no effect on him again when he gets shot by the Dalek.
You should add it in the episode, by the way.
And his arms go up, and he makes a big O face as he goes, "Oh!" and collapses dead. But then we get even more Daleks going down. See, the Daleks' big mistake here plays to Turlough's laziness. Is the Daleks are sending basically all the Daleks down to the one location. So Turlough only really needs one gas canister to kill them all.
Also, the Daleks lively announce their plans while the Doctor is hiding not very well.
Yeah, he's very
like
much in view of the Daleks.
Yeah.
What is the Doctor grabs two things?
I think they're bombs, or like magnetized bombs, because he ends up sticking them to the Daleks, and then they just start being destroyed.
See, the Daleks' mistake was just leaving those around the ship.
But they do look like big chunky chocolate bars.
They do.
Do you know
they
what I
do
mean?
look like I understand that completely.
It's like the chip from Terminator 2. It looks like a chocolate bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. And the Dalek exterminates the nerdy guy that was Davros's best friend. The guy that was working on the experiment. A Dalek exterminates him dead. And also manages to double shot a security guard at the same time. These Daleks are really good at trick shots. They always end up killing 2 or 3 people with one laser.
Yeah.
But we then cut to another action scene where we see the Daleks shooting at the stormtroopers, and there's just no effects again. It's just you're just watching people scream and lie down. It's so weird.
They just fall over. Like, I guess they ran out of time to edit the episode or something.
Yeah, they must have, but it makes it very silly because sometimes the effects the effect for the Dalek was in the previous shot, and then it's not in this one. It's very strange. But we see Lytton who did the smart move because the Daleks were pretending to shoot as he pretended to die. And we then cut to Stein, who manages to kill the 2 security guards, resisting his mental brainwashing, and he walks into the self-destruct room and poses like Superman.
He does. He just puts his hands on his hips
and smiles weirdly. It's very strange. But even more Daleks teleport down to the warehouse, and they start chatting with the other Daleks about what's happening, and the Daleks are like, there's just a lot of fighting.
Yeah, the Daleks are against the Daleks now, which is always great stuff. I love that when the Daleks just shoot other Daleks. Like in Victory of the Daleks, when the Teletubby Daleks shoot the Russell T Davies Daleks.
Yeah. I think it's always fun when Doctor Who villains end up fighting other Doctor Who villains. You know, be it Dalek against Dalek. I really like it in like Doomsday, you know, when it's Dalek against Cyberman.
Yeah.
And I love how cocky the Daleks are when they meet the Cyberman. Like, I think it's like the line in that episode, which I'm sure we'll cover it someday. But the Cybermen's like, there's 4 million Cybermen and only 4 Daleks. You think you can defeat us with just 4? And the Daleks are like, no, we could defeat you with 1 Dalek. It's like...
And they also say, we are pest control.
Yeah.
Which is a great line.
But this is the scene where the Daleks start arguing with who's the real ruler of the Daleks. Is it Davros or is it the Supreme Dalek? Some of them think it's Davros, some of them thinks it's the Supreme Dalek.
the practical effects of the Daleks being destroyed by the other Daleks look really good.
Yeah, they really enjoyed blowing up Daleks in this two-parter. It's
I don't blame him. Again, it's getting rid of old props.
yeah, it's very good. The Then the Doctor teleports down during all this gunfire, and we quickly cut away before we see him do anything. To Lytton, who's having another moral crisis as he's trying to resist his brain, trying to find the strength to destroy the ship and blow everybody up on board. The Doctor hides behind a box like the smart tactician that he is, as he's hiding behind all this gunfire. I say gunfire, laser fire, really. There's no effects again. There's a shot where we're looking at a Dalek, and we hear the sound effect, and we're looking right at its whisk, where it fires the laser. So it's like, we should be seeing a laser right now.
Maybe it's not the Dalek who's shooting. I don't know.
It's very much framed like it's the Dalek that's shooting, though.
It also moves very awkwardly, like...
Yeah.
Very slowly, very wobbly.
Just enough time for the Doctor to stick the chocolate bar bomb onto its chest.
Without it noticing, because again, it has very limited vision.
Yeah, the Doctor successfully blows up the Dalek and continues to move around, sticking bombs onto Daleks, blowing them up. He slides one across the floor very fast, and why didn't he just do that to begin with? Why try to stick it onto one Dalek when you can just throw it into the middle of the room and try and hit multiple? But whatever. We then cut to Lytton lying down, and I think it's a very nicely framed shot.
Yeah.
Where we see the Dalek explode from the Doctor's bomb. We see Lytton in front of the frame, and when I was watching this, I forgot that it was Lytton and that Lytton was pretending to be dead, because you can just see him breathing. And I was like, "Oh, that extra fucked up." But no, he wakes up. He wakes up and he turns to shoot the Doctor.
The extra fucked up by breathing.
Yeah. He goes to shoot the Doctor, and the Doctor runs out into the next room, and we then cut to Turlough and Tegan, and the Doctor just casually walks into the TARDIS as if he didn't just run away in the next scene. He just walks in, like. And although I did love this scene where he sees that Turlough and Tegan have taken the gas canister, he walks in from all this gunfire. He just points it and goes, "Well done."
Yeah, I love how just like earlier when he was like, "Why are you just standing there? Do something." He's very particular in the way he's speaking.
He is with it. Yeah. He expects them at this point to know what they're supposed to be doing and to just get on with it. Like. The Doctor says that the virus is only going to kill the Daleks, and that it will basically destroy itself once all the Daleks are dead, which is some pretty brave thinking. Is it a virus that's not going to mutate? Is it not going to jump the species barrier? It's a big gamble the Doctor's playing, but I guess it works out.
Daleks are technically kind of human. The Khalids were humanoids. I'm not sure what in the Daleks I'm not sure how much the Dalek DNA changed. Like,
apparently enough that only a virus will affect them.
This would be very weird in New Who, though. Just a virus to destroy the Daleks. Like,
yeah.
Because the Daleks are overpowered now, aren't they?
They're definitely more strong now than they used to be. But I think that adds to them being a threat. The issue with the Daleks now is I don't think it's ever scary or threatening when there's like a billion Daleks attacking the Earth or a billion Daleks in this big fight. It's way more intimidating when there's one Dalek,
Daleks to me have lost their threat because every year they show up and every year they get destroyed easily.
Yeah, but if I would rather have one Dalek in a really serious, quiet episode rather than like. There's an army of Daleks hiding behind the moon, and they've captured the Earth, and now they're flooding everywhere.
Good point. I think Dalek is probably one of the best Dalek episodes alone.
Mm-hmm. Into the Dalek, I remember that being okay. where the Doctor shrinks down and goes into a Dalek. It's a fun concept.
I only remember "Don't be lasagna."
We cut to Davros, who checks his escape hatch, which I thought was very funny. Why doesn't he just escape right now? He opens the door to the escape hatch and then closes it again.
Yeah, it's very awkwardly staged again.
Yeah, but
He
he activates
opens
one of
it.
the poisons.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
opens it when immediately closes it.
Yeah, and then turns around and grabs the poison, the virus even, activates the pod that it's in, and just kind of lobs it over to some Daleks.
The Daleks breaking through the door is again a great effect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
anything that's explosion related is fantastic in here.
And the Daleks burst in to exterminate Davros, and Davros is like, you should. He's basically playing for time to try and get the virus to affect the Daleks before they shoot him. What do you think of the virus effect?
It looks like something dirty.
See, for me, I didn't think of it as dirty. I thought of it as just like shaving foam coming out. But yeah, it does look like all the Daleks start jizzing uncontrollably.
But yeah, it is actually foam. That's what they actually used. Which I don't know how to feel about it. It's very of its time.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not an effect you could get away with nowadays, without adding, I think, I don't know, maybe some goop to it, make it a bit look less foamy and a bit more grotesque.
You would need like green goo coming out to represent like blood or something. Like that would have been more interesting.
Yeah. But we cut back to the Doctor fiddling with the virus tube. He turns on, tells them to open the door. They open the door, and he walks out very casually. And this is where we see him sneak and place the virus behind the Daleks during their big fight. And there's very little danger for the Doctor here. The Daleks are not concerned with him at all.
Yeah, because they're too busy shooting each other, which is a great little bit.
Mm-hmm. The Doctor places the virus. Lytton goes to shoot him, and the Doctor just ducks into the TARDIS. The Doctor is fantastic at dodging Lytton's gunfire.
He's a pro.
But we then see the Daleks starting to get all foamy and dying. And then there's a great line where Lytton is looking at the Daleks, and he's got a stormtrooper beside him, and he goes, "They're dying. And so are you." And he then shoots the stormtrooper.
And then he escapes.
Yeah, we see him holding a police hat. Where did he get the police hat?
He was one of the police officers at the very beginning, so.
But has he just been carrying it with him this whole time?
I presume it's just been in his jumpsuit, whatever that is. It's like a very futuristic outfit.
Yeah, he's got a police hat, and we then cut to the self-destruct room as Stein says that he needs to rest. I don't know why he decides he needs to rest. Why not just blow up the ship? Whatever.
Yeah, he's taking a rest right before he commits suicide. Basically, it's
it's
very strange. The effect of the broken down Daleks do look good though.
Yeah, they look like kind of melted and gross. And we then see Davros, who's about to go use his escape room, which he double checked the door was working, and then the virus starts to take place on him, and he says that he's not a Dalek, as foam and stuff starts spraying out of him as he quote unquote dies. But of course Davros lives.
Yeah, of course he does. He always does. He was supposed to die here, but Terry Nation, the creator of the Daleks, and Davros was against it, so it was changed last minute. But he kind of does die, but obviously not, because he does come back.
Yeah, Doctor Who has an issue that I think you find a lot in most big TV shows, say like Dragon Ball or things like that, where they have these big villains that are so good, but then when they beat the villain and they kill it, they're like, oh, we now don't have that villain. Yeah. Let's just bring him back. Let's just find a way to bring him back. We then see all the Daleks starting to slowly die and screaming in agonizing pain, essentially, as the Doctor and Tegan watch on the security footage. A nice little thing here is we see Tegan isn't actually looking at the footage. She's looking really uncomfortable and staring down at the console of the TARDIS.
Also, the Daleks speaking gibberish reminds me of Asylum of the Daleks, where the Daleks start asking Rory for eggs. Remember?
Yeah. But then the Supreme Dalek confronts the Doctor. Somehow, I guess he just Skypes in. I guess he's got the Doctor's Discord, and he calls in.
And then 5 minutes left of the episode, he's like, "Oh, we've still got duplicates on Earth."
Yeah, I was watching this. I was like, God, they're not continuing with more story, are they? But the Doctor kind of shrugs it off, as in like, oh, they'll break their mental conditioning. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, but it's like when a Jedi controls somebody. A weak-minded person could easily be controlled.
Yeah.
And so you can't just have faith that the conditioning will break because Stein broke it.
Yeah, it's very lazy on the Doctor's half. And Stein didn't break it immediately. He had captured the Doctor and was running experiments on him beforehand. Like,
yeah, it's very out of nowhere. It didn't need to be there. It's
I feel like it's a thing where they were getting to the end of the episode and then they went, oh God, we've still got all these duplicates on Earth. How do we fix that? Like, we don't have time to get around that story. What do we do?
And then later on, Turlough's like, let's just warn the Earth's authorities. I mean, it's like, what if the Earth's authorities are duplicates?
They are. We see the police are the duplicates throughout the episode. But yeah, it's very silly. And then we see Daleks confronting Stein in the self-destruct room. And they shoot Stein. And I kind of liked how he died. Where you see he's got a big grin on his face as he collapses onto the self-destruct and blows everyone up.
I just wish it wasn't in slow motion because there's a huge lack of frames here.
Yeah, it's a bit silly. But then we get a quite nice looking explosion where they're blowing up the model spaceships.
Oh yeah, all the practical effects are really nice.
Yeah. And the Doctor's watching that explosion as well. He loves watching everyone die from the safety of his TARDIS right now.
It is a lot like the end of Earthshock, where Adric stays behind to cause the explosion of the Cybermen ship, which you haven't seen, so
No.
we will cover it one day.
Yeah, we cut to Lytton walking down the street as a police officer. He's then joined by 2 other police officers, and they continue to walk. I really like this scene. It's very ominous. Like, it leaves that sinister tone of, oh, they didn't really fix everything, did they? Because he got away.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's very sinister. Given time, the duplicates will be free of Dalek control. But how much time are we talking about? Like, somebody could break free from their conditioning like 20 years down the line. And the damage will have already been done.
Yeah, but I think also the blocking here is very weird. The Doctor and Turlough and Tegan have walked out of the TARDIS to, I guess, look at the destruction that they already looked at. And they're like, oh, we should inform the authorities about this. Yes, smart. And then the Doctor's like, well, back into the TARDIS, everybody.
Yeah, how are we going to inform the authorities in the TARDIS?
It's a phone box. But this is where Tegan says that she's not coming with the Doctor. And the Doctor's like, oh gosh, what? And I on the first time I watched this, I thought the scene was kind of underwhelming. And it kind of came out of nowhere. But rewatching it, I actually enjoyed it a lot more. And I thought that Tegan's performance and her reasoning was really sound.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favourite understated Doctor Who companion exits. It's kind of out of nowhere, but it works for the episode.
Yeah. And as we said earlier, it really causes the Doctor to reflect on himself. Because Tegan's like, so many people died. This was absolutely horrible. and is like, I think she says like my gran or my mum or something, or my aunt.
Her aunt, who was
Yeah.
killed by the master.
Ah. She says that her aunt told her when she became a, was it air stewardess or something?
Yeah.
To when it stops being fun, just stop doing it, and that's traveling with the doctors no longer become fun. It's become traumatizing. Uh,
She saw an old man just get shot for doing nothing. That's gotta
yeah.
be something.
In this scene where the doctor's saying goodbye to Tegan, she offers him a handshake as a way of goodbye, which I think is nice enough. But if in the two shot that we've got of them, Turlo's just kind of like lurking in the shadows like some sort of monster. Like
I do love Peter Davison trying to overcome his emotions of losing one of his friends. It's a great understated moment where he looks defeated and he's just like, I've got to carry on.
yeah, uh, yeah. Peter Davidson's, again, his performance in this episode is one. It's way better than it was in the last episode, and as you said, it's like his best performance as the Doctor. I think he's absolutely fantastic in it.
And then the
But
Doctor and Turlo leave, and Tegan says, Braveheart Tegan, which is a reference to what the Doctor tells her when she first joined the show.
ah,
It's
I thought
also it's also referenced in the Matt Smith episode. Matt Smith casually just throws a line saying he once dealt with an Australian desperate to get on her flight back home. And then he turns to Clara and he's like, Braveheart, Clara.
oh, that's fun. But yeah, we cut to the Tegan saying that, and then she says she's gonna miss you, Doctor. She starts to cry, and then the theme song kicks in, baby. It's the end of the episode. What a note to end it on.
She very unfortunately accidentally removes her bandage at the very end to reveal there's no blood underneath.
Yeah.
It's a very unfortunate shot to end on, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's a very sad note to end the episode on as well, which is why I find it so shocking, because this isn't the end of the season. There's still like one or two stories left in this season, and it's such a downer of like the companion's gone. Goodbye. The end.
Oh yeah. And then the next episode sees Turlo leaving. And then the
Really?
following episode I think sees Peter Davison leaving. So
Yeah, there's a lot of leaving coming in. It's weird that the Doctor regenerated and the season continued. It wasn't the end of the season.
I do like that though. The episode itself isn't good because the Doctor spends most of his time trying to kill Perry, his companion, because he's just gone insane. I do like that. It gives you a little taster of who the next Doctor is going to be before you have to wait a year to see the next episode. Also, William Hartnell left like 8 episodes into season 4. So that's another season where 2 Doctors star.
Yeah. Just leaving halfway through a show. It'd be very interesting if Modern Who did that.
I would really like it, yeah.
I would really like it if they managed to keep it under wraps, which is like almost impossible. But if like just on like episode 5 of the season, the Doctor suddenly regenerates and the rest of the season's with a new Doctor, and no one knew it was coming.
Remember when David Tennant started regenerating at the end? What is it? The Journey's End, or the episode before Journey's End? He started regenerating, and I was like, "Holy shit! Is he regenerating now?"
Yeah.
Do you remember that week in 2008? Just thinking, is the Doctor going to still be played by David Tennant? That week was wild.
Yeah, and it was much better than when they announced the special, The Next Doctor. And you're like, oh, this guy's going to be the next. That's a really fun way of introducing the next Doctor, is having the Doctor that's about to regenerate into him have an adventure with him before we've even met. But no, it's a fake out. He's not really the Doctor.
The closest they've done to doing something like that is when Peter Capaldi briefly appears in The Day of the Doctor.
One of the best moments in that film. It's so good.
The cinema I was at just went wild. It was so good.
all 12 of them? No, sir. All 13. It's such a fucking good line. It's so good. But yes, that brings us to the end of the episode. And what are your thoughts on it, Scott?
That was a long one.
This part 2 is going to be like 2.5 hours long.
But yeah, the first half wasn't the best, but the second half on multiple viewings certainly picked up a lot. I really like Peter Davison's performance, and the only reason why we've done this episode is because it's been 40 years since Peter Davison joined the role, and I think looking at his best acting performance in the show is a good way to celebrate him, and he is an underrated Doctor for sure. He's not one that goes on the top of my list, but he's definitely worthy of being the Doctor.
I mean, he had massive shoes to fill, though, didn't he? You know, he's
Yeah.
following the fourth Doctor, the longest Doctor there's ever been, one of the most popular Doctors, the most iconic. You know, even when you see images of the Doctor now, it's still that fucking scarf. You know, he had some impossible shoes to fill.
Certainly, yeah.
And my thoughts on it, yeah, I think part 1 is definitely kind of rough. Part 2 is a lot better. The pacing's all over the place. There's a lot of really silly, dumb moments in it. But Peter Davidson and Davros, they shine above everyone else, and they make it worth watching. I think it's very, very good for that, especially on a second viewing. For that second part, I enjoyed it so much.
I don't think it's Doctor Who unless you have silly moments like that. It's very of its time.
Yeah, it's very 1980s, but that brings us to the end of the episode. Finally, congratulations if you've made it this far.
Next week we're doing The Demons, starring John Pertwee. So that's a way to celebrate the Master's 50th anniversary.
The chances that's going to be another 2-parter?
100%, because I've scheduled it as 2 parts.
So yeah, look forward to that. You can find us anywhere you get good podcasts. We're available on YouTube. We're available audio form everywhere. You can follow us on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on Twitter at Watches Doctor. You can find me at Cloth223 and on Twitch at twitch.tv/somethingorange. And also you can find my comedy stuff at youtube.com/messyoutube. I do a lot of stuff, apparently.
You really do.
Yeah.
How do you have the time?
Yeah, God knows. Don't make a lot of money. And what about you, Scott?
You can email us at whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. Just anything you want to talk about related to Doctor Who, we'll answer it at our end of month news show. So send your emails away. We're desperate for emails.
Yeah, but other than that, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.